Hey, Krish.
Prabhuji, can you tell me that Prabhuji, I forgot actually. Prabhuji does the Zoom recording also? No, right? Only the YouTube streaming, no?
YouTube streaming only.
Okay. I keep forgetting that. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for joining. So, we will discuss Canto 4, chapter 23. I'll share my screen. The live streaming is also going on, I think. You got the message, right? Live streaming going on.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhuji.
Thank you. Because this is the first time I'm trying in this laptop, so making sure. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
We'll do the Mangala Charan. You can just do by yourself also.
Yeah.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamahyam Dadati Sapadandikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishaknavatamsa हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी श्रवाणसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिये जकल्पतरुभ्याश कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम
Hare Rama,
राम
Rama
राम हरे हरे.
Rama, Hare Hare.
You all progressed this much. This is the last one, right, Prabhuji? Yeah. So we are at the last chapter of the Canto 4.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So Hari Sankeetan Prabhuji presented this. So I'm using the same presentation. Okay.
No
And then
problem.
I will upload it over there. Okay. So before we begin, Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Shinvatam Swakata Krishnaha Punyashravana Kirtanaha Hridyantastu Hyabdrani Vidunoti Sugarsatam Nashtaprayesha Padreshu Nityam Bhagavata Seveya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistikim. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. We'll begin. So we follow the Chatuspati, knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values. So we are at the Canto 4. Sorry, we do have Prabhuji. So till 31st.
Oh, yeah. No,
Okay.
this part C is the last one.
Yeah, part C is the last, correct. So part D is there. Analogy by Puranjana and Narada. Okay. So you still have 24 to 30. It's a big one, right? Canto 4 is also a big one.
Yes.
Yeah. Canto 5 is also another 26 chapters, I think. Okay. But Canto 4 might take some time, but Canto 5 might go faster. Okay. Small chapters. This is also a small one. So by just reading 6 pages per day, you'll be able to complete it. So the creation of the fourth order, Maharaja Prthu going back home. So we'll talk about Maharaja Prithu's Vanaprastha life, and then demigod's wife's price for Archie, and Palasruti. So 39 texts in this chapter. 1 to 18, Maharaja Prthu's Vanaprastha life, austerities and departure. Then 19 to 22, Archie performs funeral rites and enters into the flames. And then 23 to 30, the demigod's wives praise Archie. And then Palasruti. So in the previous chapter, just to recollect, we read how Prithu Maharaj ruled, right, gloriously, and also his wonderful qualities. In this, we'll hear about how he left this planet. Okay. Anybody wants to highlight anything learned from the Prithu Maharaj's glorious rule? Any a few points? Any one of you? He did a lot of things, right? He was challenging Mother Earth, right? All those things.
Yeah, I think one of the point I remember was he was the one who leveled the whole planet for
Right.
proper the growing of proper grains and other things, right?
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, Prithu's Vanaprastha life and austerities. So I will read this one. Next one onwards, I will volunteer one by one so that you can read. Maharaja Prthu retires. See, nowadays we can see that politicians are not even retiring. They just wanted to keep having the power. And whereas in Vedic culture, you know that previously kings were Raja Rishis. They are not attached. So they normally rule and then give it to others and then they will move on. So 1, 2, 3. Realizing his old age, Prithu, the maintainer of all kinds of living entities, having executed the orders of the Lord, handed over the earth to his sons. Then he went to the forest with his wife, while the citizens lamented in separation. He divided his opulence amongst all the living entities. So he didn't keep everything for himself. Arranged for pensions for everyone, according to religious principles, and then dedicated his sons to rule the earth, whom he considered his daughter. Maharaja Prthu went with his wife to perform austerities in the forest. One should not simply remain at home, but retire in a timely manner and prepare to go back to Godhead. It is very difficult to retire from family life at the same time remain at home. So, what we try to do in this Kali Yuga, we cannot follow, we cannot retire. At least in this can be applicable for the politicians. At least they can retire from their power and then give it to youngsters or giving to other generations, so that things can move on rather than them holding everything. For us, retiring from family life in Grahastha life in Krishna consciousness stuff. So what we try to do is, we try to just do devotional service to the Lord, and that way, right, we try to gain purity among ourselves by just doing devotional service, which is much easier, chanting and then serving the Lord and serving devotees. And the wife also accompanied. Lord Ramachandra also, Mother Sita accompanied. But nowadays, if husband is going to the forest, I don't know how many wives will come. So in the 4, somebody wants to read. Otherwise, I will call out names. Otherwise, you yourself can volunteer.
I'll read, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
4.23.4 Severity. He underwent and severe austerities according to Vanprastha rules as seriously as he had formerly. Engaged in leading to the government and conquering everyone. To control all the mind and senses, one has to engage in devotional service fully. He followed not the rules of Vanprastha life, also known as Vaikuntha Ashrama.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Vaikuntha Ashrama.
No worries.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji.
I will read this one. Maharaja Prithu's austerities. So austerity comes from eating first, right? That is why we try to taste Krishna Prasad. So in Tapovana, he sometimes ate roots, sometimes fruits and dried leaves, and for some weeks he drank only water. Finally, he lived simply by just breathing air. So he was slowly cutting down everything. He did not eat any cooked food sent from the city, but sustained on what was available there. He ate only just to sustain his body. Living in forest is in the mode of goodness. One has to surpass that. Living in temple is similar to living in Vaikuntha or make our home as a temple. So which we talked about actually. That's what we devotees try to do. We try to keep deities at home and then follow all the devotional, follow all the regulative principles, and then worship the Lord. So that way, we have a feeling that we are constantly being servicing the Lord and being in Vaikuntha. A Krishna conscious person does not need to go to forest and imitate the great sages or like Maharaja Prthu. One can follow in the footsteps of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura by living in a temple which is transcendental to residence in a forest and to vow to accept Krishna Prasada and nothing else. Follow the regulative principles and chant 16 rounds daily of the Hare Krishna mantra. In this way, one's spiritual life will never be disturbed. Somebody wants to volunteer? The sixth one.
I
Sure,
can,
Prabhu,
do,
actually.
I
Yeah.
can do Hare Krishna.
No worries.
Go ahead,
Maharaj
Prabhu.
Prthu's austerities, 423 different seasons, placed fires around himself in summer, exposed himself to torrents of rain during monsoon, stood in water up to his neck in winter. He used to sleep on the earth. These are the austerities performed by Gyanis and yogis who cannot accept the process of bhakti yoga. This is to purify themselves from material contamination. The purpose is to become a devotee.
Hare Krishna Bhai. Thank you. So these are captured from the AI. Okay. 423:7 तितिक्षुर्यथा वाग्दान्ता ऊर्ध्वरेताजितानिलः आरीरादायिषुः कृष्णाम् आचारतपवुत्तमम्. He underwent all these austerities of controlling his words, senses, sexual impulse, and life years only to satisfy Lord Krishna. Ariradaishu Krishnam Acharat Tapa Uttamam. Maharaja Prthu underwent severe types of austerities for the express purpose of worshipping Krishna. One can either go through these austerities or simply take up the process of chanting the holy names of Krishna and engage in devotional service. One has to constantly engage in the devotional service. Somebody wants to volunteer?
Sure, Prabhu. Maharaj Prathu's austerities, 423, urged by thus practicing severe austerities, Maharaj Prathu gradually became steadfast in his spiritual life, completely free of all desires for fruitive activities. Control his mind and senses by breathing exercises, pranayam. Cut his bondage to the world. Purpose of pranayam is to stop mind and senses from engaging in fruitive activities, not to make the body fit and strong for working hard. Unless the karmis, jnanis, and yogis come to the point of devotional service to Lord Krishna, their so called austerities and yoga have no value.
Narayana.
Nirajita. If Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is not worshipped, there is no point in practicing meditational yoga, performing karma yoga, or culturing empiric knowledge. As far as pranayam is concerned, chanting of the holy name of the Lord and dancing in ecstasy are also considered pranayam.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
So 9 to 10, unflinching devotion. So he constantly worshipped the Lord by following the path of Adhyatma Yoga, that is Bhakti Yoga, as taught by Sanat Kumaras. Taught by Sanat Kumaras. Okay. Thus his devotion to Krishna became unflinching and fixed. Purushar Sabha refers to Maharaja Prthu, the best among human beings, and Purusham refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The conclusion is that the best man among all men engages in the service of the Supreme Person. A devotee who has engaged his life in devotional service, neophyte or advanced, is already in the liberated stage. So we all try to achieve, we are all neophytes and then try to achieve, and that way slowly by our progress and by our surrender and how much we offer to Krishna every day, based on that, we attain the purity basically. Somebody wants to read this one?
Yes, Prabhu, I can do.
Okay.
Tasyanaya bhagavata parikarma suddham satvat manas tad anusamsmarananu purtyam jnanam viraktimad abhun nishitena yena cheda samshaya padam nijajiva kosham. By such practice of bhakti, his mind became Suddha Sattva, and he could constantly think of Krishna. In his purified mind appeared jnana and and vairagya, by which he destroyed the subtle body, jiva kosham, and transcended all doubts. Thus, he was free from the clutches of false ego and the material conception of life. Because of his regular discharge of devotional service, a devotee attains the transcendental stage of life. Since his mind is transcendentally situated, he cannot think of anything but the lotus feet of the Lord. This is the meaning of the word samsmarana anupotya. By constantly thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord, the devotee immediately becomes situated in Shuddha Sattva. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. And then Prithu destroys his subtle body. 423:12. When he became completely free from the conception of bodily life, Maharaja Prthu realized Lord Krishna sitting in everyone's heart as a Paramatma, being thus able to get all instructions from him. He gave up all other practices of yoga and jnana. He was not even interested in the perfection of the yoga and jnana systems, attaining siddhis, for he thoroughly realized that devotional service to Krishna is the ultimate goal of life. Unless the yogis and jnanis become attracted to Krishna Katha, narrations about Krishna, their illusions concerning existence can never be dispelled. The perfection of life depends on one's inclination to hear about Krishna. It is therefore mentioned in this verse, Yavad Gadagraja Katashu Ratim na Kuryat. Unless one becomes interested in Krishna, in his pastimes and activities, there is no question of liberation by means of yoga practice or speculative knowledge. Anybody wants to volunteer? 13.
Yes, bro, I can do.
Okay.
Prithu gives up his gross body. 423:13. In due course of time, when Prithu Maharaj was to give up his body, he fixed his mind firmly upon the lotus feet of Krishna, and thus completely situated on the Brahma Bhuta platform, he gave up the material body. It is thoroughly described in the following verses how one can voluntarily give up his body and return home back to Godhead. The yogi process practiced by Prithu Maharaj at the time of death accelerates the giving up of his body while one is in sound health physically and mentally. Every devotee desires to give up the body while it is sound physically and mentally. By situating oneself in the Muktasana position, a yogi can immediately give up his body and go to whatever planets he desires. A perfect yogi can give up his body whenever he desires through the practice of yoga. Prithu, being a pure devotee and a Satyavesha avatar, did not have material subtle and gross bodies. This was done to set an example for materialistic yogis. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we have the question, right? So though he is incarnation, and then why he is doing all this? So when the Lord came in, he accepts the Guru, and similarly, as a Kshatriya, he wants to show that all these things finally attaining the Lord through devotional service. In sitting in Muktasana, Prithu raised his life hair from the Muladhara chakra, anus to Swadhisthana chakra, navel, to Manipuraka chakra, abdomen, to Anahata chakra, heart, to Visuddhi chakra, throat, to Anja chakra, between eyebrows. The ultimate aim of yoga is to enable one to give up this body according to his own free will. Some desire to go to higher planetary system. The intelligent ones go back home, back to Godhead. One who is practicing devotional service need not practice the Muktasana process. Anybody wants to volunteer? 15 to 16. Whoever hasn't read.
I can read.
Yeah,
Hare
go ahead,
Krishna.
Mataji.
Prithu gives up his gross body, 423, 15 to 16, merging the material body. In this way, Prithu Maharaj gradually raised his ear of lift up to the whole of his skull, Brahma Chandra,
Rudra.
whereupon he lost all his desire for material existence. Gradually, he merged his air of life with the totality of air, his body, and with the totality of earth and fire within, his body within the totality of fire. According to the different position of the various parts of body, Prathumara merged the wholes of his senses with the sky. His bodily liquids, such as blood and various secretions, with a totality of water, and he merged earth with water, then water with fire, fire with air, air with the sky. In second canto, fifth chapter, the process of creation is explained. The air from the sky, the fire from the air, the water from the air, from the fire, the earth from the water. The reverse process is followed here.
Thank you, Mataji. How many of you remember second canto, 5th chapter? It's a tough one, right? Explains about the creation.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prithu gives up his gross body, merging the subtle body. He merged the mind with the senses and the senses with the sense objects according to their respective positions. And he also merged the material ego, ahankara, with the total material energy, mahatattva. Since the ultimate cause is in the material world is mahatattva, everything was gradually wound up and amalgamated within the mahatattva. When the mind is completely washed off all material contamination, the pure consciousness acts. The sound vibration from the spiritual sky, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, can automatically cleanse all material contaminations. Anybody wants to volunteer? 18.
Yes, bro. Prathu gives up his gross body. 423.18, giving up the body. He placed the Mahatattva into Prakriti, gave up the Prakriti by power of Jnana and Vairagya and by the force of Bhakti. In this way, being controller of his senses and already situated in his Swarupa, Krishna consciousness, he gave up his body. Controller of the senses, he was no longer influenced by material energy.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, he uplifted the platform and he controlled his subtle senses, right? And then now the gross, the body. Now Archie performs funeral rites. So Archie performs funeral rites and enters into the flames. Voluntarily, Archie volunteered followed Prithu in the forest and touched his lotus feet to the ground, despite being a queen with a delicate body unsuited for austerities. pressure of service. Though she became thin by performing austerities like sages, she did not feel any pain, and because she derived pleasure in serving her husband. A woman's duty or religious principle is to serve her husband in all conditions. But the husband should also be qualified, for the wife to serve. So that is also there. She follows her husband when he retires from family life. But if he takes sannyasa, she should return back home and live a life of austerity. So the what if the husband is not following spiritual and regulative principles? So that means, no need to, all this won't be applicable. Am I right? So it's very difficult. The husband has to lead by the example. Now 21. Lamentation and funeral. Seeing her merciful husband's body without any symptoms of life, she lamented for a little while and then placed his body on the funeral pyre. Why did she lament only for a little time? She was very well versed in the spiritual aspects of life. Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhirastatrana muhyati. As a embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at the death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. In 22, entered the fire. She executed the necessary rituals and offered oblations to the demigods. She then circumambulated the fire 3 times and, meditating on his lotus feet, entered into the flames. The process of Sahagama was voluntary, but as Kali Yuga progressed, this practice became forced and hence to be stopped. Now nobody is doing that sati. Now by seeing this, now the demigods started praising wives, Archie. Go ahead, somebody can volunteer.
Sure, Babu, we can read. Archie performs funeral rites and enters into flames. 4.23 and 24. Demigods praise. Seeing this amazing act, thousands of wives of demigods, along with their husbands, began glorifying Archie. The demigods played instruments and their wives showered flowers on the funeral pyre. Verse 25. Service to the husband. The wives of demigods said, all glories to Queen Archie. She served her husband with mind, speech, and body, exactly as a Lakshmi serves Vishnu. In Vedic civilization, the husband and wife were not separated by such man made laws as a divorce. We should understand the necessity for maintaining family life in human society and should thus abolish the artificial law known as divorce. The husband and wife should live in Krishna consciousness and follow in the footsteps of Lakshmi Narayana or Krishna Rukmini. In this way, peace and harmony can be possible within this world. Lakshmi, Rukmini, Sita, etc. all served the Supreme Lord in spite of having hundreds of maid servants or devotees.
Thank you, Prabhuji. 26. By dint of her inconceivable pious activities, she is still following her husband upward. This indicates that when Prithu Maharaja and his wife Archie abandoned their material bodies in the material fire, they immediately developed their spiritual bodies and entered into spiritual airplanes, which could penetrate the material elements and reach the spiritual sky. They were astonished that somebody from earthly planet's inferior planetary system could go beyond the realms of demigods to the Vaikuntha planets. This all the demigods were seeing and they were praising. 423-27. Nothing is unattainable. Earthly humans have only a short lifespan. But by engaging in devotional service, they can go back to Godhead, for they are on the path of liberation. For such persons, there is nothing not attainable. They were lamenting that in spite of having birth in higher planetary system, they were not as fortunate as Archie to achieve the lotus feet of the Lord. So that is why we have seen in the lectures also, right? A lot of demigods will come and they come to this planet as a pure devotees, and then they follow the Krishna consciousness process, and then they try to liberate and serve the Lord, and they go back to Godhead, because even in the demigod, even till Indra also, right? They all have material desires, though they have a longer lifespan, but still the material desires are there. Somebody wants to read this one?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
सवनाचितो बतात्मदृक् कृच्छन महता भुवि लब्ध्वा पवर्ग्यं मानुष्यं विषयेषु विसज्जते. Killers of the self, person who engages within this material world in performing activities that necessitate necessitate great struggle, and who, after obtaining a human form of life, which is a chance to attain liberation from miseries, undertakes the difficult tasks of fruitive activities, must be considered to be cheated and envious of own self. 4.23.29. Maitreya said, while the wives of demigods were speaking, and Achi reached the same planet as that of her husband. 4.23.30. The greatest of all devotees, Maharaja Prthu, was very powerful, and his character was liberal, magnificent, and magnanimous. Thus, I have described him as far as possible. Hare Krishna.
So Falasruti, 31 to 39. So Archie performs funeral rites and enters into the flames, 31 to 36. One who faithfully and attentively reads or hears this pastime, that is Prithu Maharaj's pastime, attains the abode of Prithu, that is Vaikuntha, and a Brahmana becomes more learned, a Kshatriya becomes the leader of the world, a Vaishya becomes a master of all other Vaishyas, a Shudra becomes the best devotee, a childless person becomes blessed with good children, a poor man becomes the richest, a person with no reputation becomes famous, a fool becomes learned, one gains all auspiciousness and no inauspiciousness. The person achieves wealth, fame, a long life, swarga, immunity from Kali Yuga's influence, and the results of all four Purusharthas. A king attains victory, ruling power, and tribute from subordinate kings. Somebody wants to read the 37, this slide.
It's true. Archie performs funeral rites and enters into flames. 423.37 must hear. A pure devotee who is executing the different processes of devotion service may be situated in a transcendental position, being completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. But even while discharging devotional service, one must hear, read, and include others to hear about the character and life of Prithu Maharaj. 323, 38, 39. Conclusion. Hearing and chanting about Prithu Maharaj enriches one's devotional attitude, faith, and attraction to the Lord's feet, lotus feet, which are a boat for crossing the ocean of nescience. Thus, one can go home back to Godhead like Prithu Maharaj. This cosmic manifestation, which is compared to an ocean of nescience, is also resting on the lotus feet of the Lord. As such, this great ocean of nescience is minimized by a person who is a pure devotee. One who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord did not cross over the ocean, or he has already crossed it by virtue of his position at the Lord's lotus feet, by hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord of the or the Lord's devotee. one can become firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. This position can also be achieved by easily by narrating the history of the life of Prithu Maharaj regularly. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Some of the analogies. Maharaja Prthu as a CEO on divine assignment. Just as a CEO is sent by company's board to rescue or restructure a failing division, Maharaja Prthu was sent by Supreme Lord to restore order on earth. After fulfilling his duty, like a CEO who hands over the leadership to a successor and steps down, he retired gracefully, having completed his mission. And in government and spiritual duty, like seasonal cycles, we discussed this. Maharaja Prithu's life mirrors the natural cycle of seasons. His rule was like spring and summer, productive and active, while his retirement resembled autumn and winter, a time to shed attachments and focus inward, just as trees withdraw their energy and prepare for renewal. Husband and wife has two wings of a bird. The passage compares husband and wife as a single unit in retirement, much like two wings of a bird. Just as a bird needs both wings to fly steadily, spiritual progress in retirement is best supported when both husband and wife pursue austerity and liberation together. Tapovana as a spiritual university. Tapovanas can be compared to specialized universities for the soul. Just as scholars go to universities for focused education and growth, retiring individuals went to Tapovanas to immerse in austerity and spiritual practice, gaining wisdom for their final journey. Vedic retirement like a launch pad. Retiring to the forest wasn't an end, but a launch pad, like an astronaut entering the launch chamber before being sent to space. It was a preparatory phase for the soul's journey back to the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, requiring mental and spiritual purification. Life as a two-act play, just as a divine drama unfolds in two acts, one of worldly duty and the other one spiritual reflection. The Vedic path guides us to first honor our responsibilities with devotion and then gradually renounce them to focus entirely on Krishna. The first act prepares the heart, the second one offers fully to the Lord. Grahastha life has training wheels. Family life, when lived with dharmic restraint and Krishna at the center, is like training wheels on the path of devotion. It helps stabilize our spiritual focus amid worldly life until we are ready to surrender completely and ride unassisted in full renunciation and service to the Lord. Anybody wants to read? We pulled a lot of analogies actually. Otherwise, I will read if you are okay. Imitation as wearing a crown without authority. Trying to imitate the forest authorities of great souls like Prithu Maharaja or Rupa Goswami without proper qualification is like putting a king's crown without the qualities and responsibilities of a king. Without inner readiness, with such imitation can lead not to liberation but to pride and eventual fall down.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I can read, Prabhu.
No worries.
Okay.
Overheating.
Yeah,
Overreact.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead, please.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, second,
Second one.
overeating.
Yeah.
Overeating as a putting water on the fire. Just as pouring too much water on a fire will extinguish it, overindulgence in food, atyahar, dampens the fire of spiritual enthusiasm. Maharaj Prathu's severe diet reminds us that real nourishment comes not from the tongue, but from tasting the nectar of Krishna Katha and Krishna Prasad in moderation. 3. Krishna conscious temple life as a boat on the ocean of Kali. Trying to perform severe austerity in this age is like trying to swim across a stormy ocean. But living in the temple and following the path of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is like stepping into a sturdy boat with an experienced captain, Shri Guru and the holy name, to safely reach the shore of Goloka.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And then austerity without bhakti is like polishing a locked door. Jnanis and yogis perform intense austerities to purify themselves, but without devotion to Krishna. It is like polishing a door without even turning the key. The door remains shut to the spiritual world. Bhakti, however, is the key that opens the door to Krishna's heart. Fire and ice as outer cleansers, bhakti as inner light. The Panchatapa austerities, exposure to fire, rain, and cold, purify the body and senses, like scrubbing a vessel from the outside. But bhakti is like a lamp lit inside that vessel. It cleanses the heart and soul from within, making it fit to hold divine love. Severe tapasya is like sandpaper that rubs away impurities, often with pain. But bhakti is like the sculpture's chisel, which is precise, purposeful, and beautifying. It shapes the soul in harmony with the Lord's desire and brings out its true form as an eternal servant to Krishna. Anybody wants to volunteer?
I'll read, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Prabhuji.
A Jnani's path as climbing a mountain, bhakti as boarding an airplane. The Jnani and Yogi climb a steep mountain of discipline and renunciation with great risk and effort. The devotee, however, simply boards the airplane of bhakti, powered by Krishna's mercy and the spiritual master's instructions, and reaches the summit swiftly and safely. Sleeping on the floor versus resting at Krishna's lotus feet. The ascetic lies on the floor to cultivate detachment, but the bhakta lies at the lotus feet of the Lord, finding true rest and shelter. One path is dry and difficult, the other is full of sweetness and divine relationship. 6. Rain, fire, and ice as their outer trials, bhakti as inner transformation. The yogi's trials are with the elements, rain, fire, and ice. But the bhakta's greatest trial is to offer their heart, ego, and desires to Krishna. It is subtler, deeper, and far more transformative. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Devotional service is likened to a queen. Just as a queen is followed by maid servants, devotional service is followed by material opulence, liberation, and mystic powers. Material opulence, liberation, and mystic powers are likened to maid servants. These are not primary goals but natural attendants of pure devotion, just as maid servants follow the queen. Sri Bilvamangala Thakur's analogy of devotion making all goals stand as attendants. Religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation stand like personal attendants, waiting for orders when one has unflinching devotion to the Lord. Devotee spiritual body manifest like digestion after a meal. Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura's analogy. Just as a strong digestive fire eliminates the need for medicine, strong devotional service naturally digests all or transcends material knowledge and attachments without any separate effort. Comparison between efforts of jnanis and yogis versus effortless results of devotees. Like someone struggling to climb a mountain versus someone being carried directly to the peak, the devotee attains the Brahma Bhuta stage effortlessly, while jnanis and yogis struggle through intellectual or mystical processes. Jnanis and yogis falling from Brahman realization. They climb to the top Brahman, but again fall back down because they disregard the Lord's lotus feet, like someone reaching a high place but falling for lack of a stable foundation. Transcendental mind constantly thinking of Lord's feet. The devotee's mind is so absorbed that he cannot think of anything else, akin to a compass needle that always points north or a flame that always rises upward. Anybody wants to read this one?
I'll read, Prabhuji.
Okay.
On 4.23.28, 1. Human life as a rare, perfect boat. Just as a skilled sailor would never nor waste a strong, well-handled equipment boat when trying to cross a dangerous ocean. A wise person uses the rare nor human form of life with its full spiritual potential, guidance from a guru, and the favorable winds of Krishna consciousness. Krishna's instruction to cross not the ocean of birth, not and death. One who lets not this boat not rot not at the dock, chasing material pleasure, is like a fool who drowning with the best boat not still held tight to the shore. 2. Sense gratification as drinking salt water. All the karmis, gyanis, and yogis may think they are not satisfying their thirst with neither nor pursuit, but they are not drinking salt water. It seems to quench in for a moment, but it increases thirst, not ultimately leading into exhaustion. But only bhakti, a loving service to the Lord, is like a sweet fresh water, fully satisfying and nourishing to the soul. 3. Climbing a ladder nor leaning against the wrong wall. The Gyani, Karmi and Yogi are not like a people who are climbing great net heights, though through effort not study or
got cut.
yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Krishna, thank you. Okay, from the purport. Okay, through effort study. Okay. Or merging into the Brahman as settling as the reflection. 1 second. Choosing impersonal liberation, that is Sayujya Mukti, over devotional service is like settling for the moon's reflection in a puddle, ignoring the real moon in the sky. It may look serene, but it lacks substance, and one can fall back into illusion. Bhakti offers not just reflection, the company of the Lord Himself. Material efforts as building sand castles before high tide. The grand accomplishments of karmis, cities, science, fame, or like sand castles built with immense effort just before the tide comes in. Despite beauty and complexity, they are all washed away by the time. But the devotee service, even if simple, is eternal, stored safely in the heart of the Lord. Bhakta as one who waters the root. Karmis, jnanis, and yogis try to water the leaves, branches, or trunk of the tree of life, sense enjoyment, knowledge, or power. But only the Bhakta waters the root, Krishna. Therefore, all other attempts dry out, while Bhakti nourishes everything, including the soul. Human life has a lottery ticket already won. Receiving a human birth is like being handed a winning lottery ticket, spiritually priceless. But if one uses it to buy trivial things, temporary sense pleasures, one has been cheated not by others, but by his own lack of spiritual intelligence. So, the main principles of this chapter: renunciation and austerity as a path to devotion. Maharaja Prthu, after fulfilling his duties as a king, renounced worldly life and retired to the forest with his wife, Queen Archie. There he engaged in service austerities such as subsisting on minimal food and exposing himself to extreme weather conditions, all aimed at controlling his senses and mind. These practices were not ends in themselves, but are performed solely for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. This illustrates that renunciation and austerity, when directed towards devotional service, can lead one to spiritual perfection. Somebody wants to read this one? 3 principles.
Yes, bro.
Okay.
Supremacy of devotional service over other paths. Despite being capable of performing yogic and philosophical practices, Maharaj Prathu recognized that pure devotional service, bhakti yoga, is the ultimate goal of life. He realized that without devotion to Krishna, other paths like jnana and yoga do not lead to complete liberation. By engaging in unalloyed devotional service, he achieved complete detachment from material existence and attained the spiritual realm.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Krishna. Significance of the human form for spiritual advancement. This chapter emphasizes that human form of life is a rare and a valuable opportunity for spiritual advancement. So, It is likened to a well-constructed boat with the spiritual master as the captain and the instructions of Krishna as favorable winds. If one fails to utilize this opportunity to cross the ocean of material existence and return to Godhead, it is considered a great loss. So, we covered the topic, understand the basic things. Analogy went a little bit more because a lot of points Prabhupada wrote in the purports. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll try to answer. Otherwise, we will pass it on to Balimaran Prabhuji. In the next class, you can ask. I will put this slide deck also in your Bhakti Vaibhav Radhacharan batch 2 folder. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
If no questions, then Vancha Kalpatarabhyasha. Kripa
Kripa
Sindhubhyev
Sindhu Bheva Patita Nam
Patitanam Pavnebhyo
Pavnebhyo
Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Thank you. Have a good weekend,
Prabhupada
everyone.
ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.